I've been in the cubicle. Sorry, this is part two. If you are clicking this video first, you're going to want to read the first part of this story down below. Um, this is by Susan Shreve. This is the girls' room. Again, this is part two. If you missed part one, you're going to want to watch the video directly under this one. I've been in the cubicle for so long that I'm beginning to get sleepy. It's very difficult to sleep with your feet resting on the toilet paper holder and your bottom on the toilet seat. The trouble with the toilet seats in our girls' room is that they have no tops, so you can't close them. You can imagine how uncomfortable I am, and hungry. I'm thinking about chocolate mousse cake, which is my favorite, and fried chicken, and mashed potatoes with butter melting, when I suddenly hear the thunder of footsteps outside the door, which means it's time for lunch. Certainly someone will have to come into the girls' room now, I think, and I'm right. I hear the squeak of the door and giggling. Did you see the way Miss Burke turned purple when Zale left the classroom? I recognize the voice. It is Anna Castillo, and she's my friend. She's from Puerto Rico and is just learning English, so she has trouble with reading too. I don't blame Zale, the other girl says. I don't recognize her voice. Miss Burke is mean. She wrote a letter to my parents to tell them I didn't try hard enough to learn to read and I should go to another school. Me too, Anna says. So what are you going to do? My mother has a fire temper, and she screamed at Miss Burke that she was the teacher and her job was to teach me to read. I wish my mother had a fire temper. She just gets mad at me, the other girl says. I'm thinking about my mother. She doesn't have a fire temper. She doesn't get mad at me. She doesn't get mad at the school because I don't know how to read. She gets mad at other things. At my father, at my grandma, when she whines about her hard life. At me when my room is messy, or I forgot to change the kitty litter box for Bewilder, my yellow and white kitten that I got for Christmas. But she doesn't get mad often, and mostly, as I've told Esmeralda, she's a no-fuss, good-time mom who says what she thinks. She thinks I'm too stubborn. She told me that the other day. We were in the kitchen, and she was making gnocchi from scratch, and I was supposed to be reading aloud to her, but I quit. What do you mean, too stubborn? I asked. Stubborn is good, my mother said. It means you think for yourself and don't follow the leader, and that's good. So, I asked. Too stubborn means you dig your heels into the dirt and won't move even if a giant snowplow is about to run you over. We don't have snowplows here. You know what I mean, Zale, my mother said, dropping the gnocchi in boiling water. If you decide you're not going to do something, eat dinner, brush your teeth, go to a birthday party, learn to read, you won't budge. What you don't understand is that it's hard being the stupidest person in the class, I said. Sometimes I don't even want to try. You're not the stupidest person in the class. So what if you were? Many of the kids have worse problems. Not that I know of, I said, shredding the Parmesan cheese with our new shredder. Anyway, it's embarrassing if you can't read. I'd rather work at a filling station. The truth is, I know that the kids in special reading with Miss Burke don't know how to read either. That some of them may even be worse than I am. My mother tells me all the time. There are plenty of children who don't know how to read, so don't feel bad about it. It isn't a big deal because it's a deal you can change. The trouble is, when I'm at school, I feel as if I'm the only one. Anna says she's ready to go to lunch, and I hear the door open, so I can lean down to peek under the cubicle, and I recognize Sasha's blue socks with white kittens. Sasha Miller. I can hardly believe it. I thought Sasha was the best student in special reading. She always finishes the chapter books. She knows the answers to all the questions and raises her hand in class, which I never do, and can even read aloud without tripping over the words, which happens to me every time I read out loud. Peony, bluefish, nerves, my mother tells me. You never stutter at home. I'm just about to stand on the toilet seat to see if I can look over the cubicle when the door opens again, and I know it's Miss Burke. Zale, she calls. I can see her feet. She's wearing low-heeled black shoes, and someone is with her, also grown up, in books. Zale, you here? She's looking under the cubicles. I can tell by listening to her heels click and stop and click and stop. Not here, she says. The water turns on, so I suppose she's washing her hands. Do you think she might have gone home? Another voice says, and I recognize the voice of Miss Peach, the principal. I like Miss Peach. She has always been nice to me, and she's funny and good-tempered, even with the boys. I can't imagine Zale would just go home in the middle of the day without telling anyone. Very nervy. I never thought of going home, but it pleases me that they think I might. I'd be afraid to walk down Park Road by myself. My house is across this highway, which my mother won't let me cross without a policeman. Besides, I wouldn't want to spend all day at home when my mother is at work, even with Bewilder. She's only a cat, and she can't talk. Did you check the lunchroom? Miss Peach says. I will. She turns off the water. She just walked right out of the classroom when I told her she couldn't be excused, Miss Burke says. She must have been upset. She should be. She doesn't do her homework. Well, check the lunchroom, Miss Peach says. I will, Miss Burke replies, and I'll send someone to check the playground. And if we don't find her, we're going to have to call her mother right away, Miss Peach says. I don't want anyone to call my mother. I wrap my arms around my knees and press my forehead against them. It's cold here. I'm only wearing a long-sleeved t-shirt and jeans, and I need a sweater. Probably if I don't eat lunch soon, I'll faint. That's what my mother says will happen to her if she doesn't eat. My plan has been to stay in the cubicle until the end of school. Wait until most of the students have left the building to go home or tutoring or piano lessons or the dentist, and then I'll slip out of the girls' room, down the back steps, out the playground door, and home. But if they're calling my mother, I can't. She will be so worried. I think about her at the supermarket, standing at the checkout register in her blue uniform with Mary Alice embroidered on the pocket. She's smiling at everyone, telling them hello, asking about their children, handing the babies a cookie from the box of animal crackers she keeps beside her at the register. My mother is almost always cheerful, and it isn't easy. She works all day, and sometimes people get angry at her because their carton of milk has a hole in it, or the nuts fall out of the almond bag, or the lettuce is brown at the edges. She's always pleasant, even though that isn't her fault. I'm not responsible for lettuce, she'll tell me, only the cash register. Thinking about my mother just now has started me thinking about myself. I'm sitting here, shivering, wishing I had my peanut butter sandwich and a sweater, and that the bell for dismissal was ringing, and I start to wonder whether reading is easier than I think it is. Maybe I haven't been trying hard enough, I think. Maybe I can learn if I don't call Esmeralda when I get home from school this afternoon. Maybe I won't turn on the television. At least Mom made a new batch of chocolate chip cookies to eat while I'm trying to read Peony Bluefish and the Bag Lady. I didn't wear my watch today, but it's probably late and Miss Burke has gone to the lunchroom and I won't be there. Then she'll ask the kids in my class whether they've seen me, and they'll say no, and someone will check the playground and I won't be there. Miss Burke will march to Miss Peach's office and tell her that I have officially disappeared. Then Miss Peach will call my mother. My mother will go crazy. I have to get out of here without being seen. My plan is to slip out now, head down the back steps, past the kindergarten and first grade, go out the side door, run to the supermarket so I can get there before Miss Peach makes her telephone call. But as I'm thinking about my new plan, the door to the girls' room opens and I see 4 shoes passing beside my cubicle. I wait. Someone's crying. I read the whole first chapter twice, the crying girl says. I can only read about half the words. Miss Burke knows you're trying, another girl says. I recognize the voice of Jilly O'Shee, who sits next to me in the homeroom. She isn't in special reading with us, but she doesn't tease us either like some of the girls in the 4th grade do. She called my mom and told her I was only a little better in reading, and by now I should be much better. Very quietly, I lift the hook on the door. So what happened today? Jilly asks. I was telling about my parents going to India, and then Miss Burke asked me a question, and I didn't know the answer. And then she asked another question, and then I cried. She told me I had lots of time to read the chapter, and I should know everything. I put my feet on the ground and stand up. It is Betsy Ford. I can hardly believe my ears. Perfect Betsy Ford with her high ponytail and big personality. I push open the door, and in the mirror over the sinks, I see Betsy Ford's tear-streaked face dripping with water because she's just washed it. Hi, I say. Zale? Jilly says. Miss Burke was just in the lunchroom looking for you. I was here, I say, standing next to Betsy and washing my face. In the girls' room? I've been here since I left reading. Betsy looks over at me. For almost 2 hours? What did you do? Nothing, I say. I came in here because I didn't want to listen to Miss Burke complain about me anymore. Betsy smiles at me through her tears, and I smile back. Me too, Betsy says. She calls my parents and tells them I don't try. Me too. Do you try? I hesitate before I answer. Maybe not so much, I say. I watch TV until my mom gets home from work. I do too, Betsy Ford says. I've had trouble ever since first grade, and sometimes I think I'm afraid to try. It's the first time I've ever told anyone at school the truth, and I'm surprised at how easy it is to tell Betsy Ford, who was my enemy only a couple of hours ago. It's like if you work very hard and still can't learn to read, you must be stupid. Exactly. She throws her arm around my shoulder. Did you have lunch yet? Not yet, I say. I've been here all morning and now I'm starving. Well, let's sit at the table, Betsy says. Great, I say. I'll meet you in the lunchroom, but first, I have to tell Miss Peach that I've been found. We'll save you a seat, Jilly says, waving as I head off to Miss Peach's office. I stop at my locker, pick up my lunch, slipping the chocolate chip cookie out of the bag, eating it on the way. Tonight, I'm thinking when my mother gets home from the supermarket, I'll be sitting at the kitchen table reading Peony Bluefish and the Bag Lady. She'll ask me what I've been doing. Just reading, I'll say. Maybe I'll finish the first 2 chapters by the time she gets home. Maybe I'll be able to answer all the questions tomorrow in special reading. Have you been watching TV, Zale? She'll ask. Or talking to Esmeralda on the telephone? No, I'll say. I haven't, which will be the truth. So I really like this story. Here's Susan Shriv. This isn't my favorite one, but I think it reminds me the most of you guys, the kids that I work with, who have a hard time reading sometimes. Not everybody, but they probably feel like it's only them who struggles with reading, and that's not the case. There are a lot of kids that struggle with reading. You heard how many times I messed up while I was reading this, and you have to go back and read words again. And it's tough when things are hard, and they do get easier when you learn how to do them, and we avoid things when they're tough. I'd like to learn how to play the guitar, and someone even gave me a guitar to practice on. But when I come home, it's a lot easier to just play the video game because I'm not too good at the guitar. So I say that I try, but I don't really try as hard as I could be. And I think some of you probably do that with reading, and that's okay too. Just like Zale here, she learned that about herself. And sometimes we have to think about who we are and be honest about who we are and how hard we try. And it's okay to be honest with ourselves. And then we just learn from our mistakes and continue to grow as people and make sure we have a plan to be a better person and a smarter person and a stronger person the next day. So I hope you guys are trying to stay up to date on some type of education while we're away. I can say if you do nothing else, please make sure you read for 30 minutes a day, and you'll see quite a few gains if you just read for 30 minutes a day. So goodbye, everyone.